It was a quiet June night in 1912 when the town of Villisca, Iowa, fell into a darkness deeper than any it had known before. The Villisca axe murders would become one of the most haunting crimes in American history, a case where an entire family and 2 young guests were brutally slain as they slept. The small Midwestern town, surrounded by cornfields and the rhythmic hum of crickets, had always been a place where doors were left unlocked and neighbors greeted each other by name. That night, the air was still, heavy with the scent of summer rain that had passed earlier in the evening. Inside the modest white house near the edge of town, the family had returned from a church event, their lamps extinguished one by one as they settled into bed. No one could have imagined that before dawn, every soul inside would be gone. The killer moved silently, methodically, wielding an axe that belonged to the household itself. Curtains were drawn tight, mirrors covered, and clocks stopped at strange intervals, as if time itself recoiled from what had happened. When morning came, the house stood eerily still, its windows reflecting only the pale light of a new day. The town's routine began as usual. Roosters crowed, wagons rattled down dirt roads. But by mid-morning, whispers had begun to spread. Something was wrong at the Moore home. A neighbor, noticing the absence of movement, approached the door and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. What she found inside would shatter the town's sense of safety forever. When the first responders arrived, the scene was unlike anything they had encountered. The sheriff and his deputies entered cautiously, their boots creaking against the wooden floors, slick with the residue of violence. The air inside was thick, unmoving, carrying the metallic scent of blood and the faint sweetness of kerosene from a nearby lamp. Each room told the same story. Beds neatly made, bodies still beneath blankets, as if frozen mid-dream. The axe lay abandoned, its handle wiped clean, but its blade darkened. Outside, a small crowd gathered, murmuring in disbelief, hats held in trembling hands. The town doctor was summoned, his face pale as he confirmed what everyone feared. Reporters from nearby counties soon arrived, their notebooks filling with grim details that would travel far beyond Iowa's borders. Lawmen began cordoning off the property, though the concept of a crime scene was still new to rural policing. They posted guards at the doors, but curious townspeople pressed close, leaving footprints in the soft earth that would later complicate the investigation. Horses shifted restlessly along the fence line, sensing the tension that hung over the house. As the day wore on, the sun climbed high, baking the dust on Main Street, yet no one returned to their chores. The sheriff ordered the bodies removed carefully, each carried to the parlor for examination. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the scratch of pens recording names and times. The investigation unfolded slowly, constrained by the tools and knowledge of 1912. There were no fingerprints taken, no photographs beyond a few grainy images captured by local photographers. Officers relied on lantern light and handwritten notes, marking each discovery in ledgers that would later become brittle with age. They interviewed neighbors, ministers, and traveling salesmen who had passed through town in recent days. A bloodhound was brought in from a nearby county, its handler leading it around the perimeter of the property, hoping for a scent trail. The dog circled twice, then veered toward the railroad tracks before losing the trail entirely. Investigators searched for signs of forced entry, but found none. The doors had been locked from the inside. The family's belongings were intact, suggesting robbery was not the motive. At the church, parishioners gathered in hushed circles, praying for the victims and for answers that never seemed to come. Parents began escorting their children everywhere, and hardware stores sold out of new locks within days. The local paper printed daily updates, its presses running late into the night, while telegraph operators relayed the story to distant cities. The sheriff's office compiled lists of possible suspects, each name crossed out as alibis were confirmed. Still, the sense of unease deepened. The town's rhythm faltered. Laughter disappeared from porches, and blinds stayed drawn even in daylight. As weeks turned into months, the case grew colder, yet theories multiplied. One suspect, a traveling preacher, drew particular attention after reportedly confessing during a church meeting in another state. His statements were inconsistent, sometimes claiming divine visions, other times denying involvement entirely. Investigators followed his trail, interviewing witnesses across several towns, but evidence remained elusive. Others suspected a transient worker, seen near the rail yard that night, or perhaps a local with hidden grudges. Some believed the murders were part of a wider pattern, pointing to similar axe killings in neighboring states. Newspapers seized on these connections, printing maps and timelines that blurred fact and speculation. Court proceedings were attempted years later, but without physical proof, no conviction could stand. The preacher's trial ended in acquittal, leaving the community divided between relief and frustration. Over time, the case files thickened with reports, letters, and testimonies that led nowhere. The house itself became a grim landmark, its walls absorbing decades of whispered theories. Children dared each other to approach it after dark, while adults avoided even glancing at its windows. The mystery persisted, reshaped by each generation's retelling. For law enforcement, it remained a lesson in the limits of early forensic work, how a single night's chaos could erase every trace of truth. More than a century later, the case endures as one of America's most unsettling, unsolved crimes. The house still stands, restored to its 1912 appearance, its rooms preserved as if waiting for the family to return. Visitors describe the stillness inside, the faint echo of footsteps on old floorboards, and the uneasy awareness of history pressing close. Historians and forensic enthusiasts continue to study the evidence, comparing notes, re-examining photographs, and debating the plausibility of each suspect. Modern technology has offered new insights, but no definitive answers. In Villisca, the memory of that night lingers quietly, woven into the town's identity. Locals speak of it with respect, not fear, acknowledging both the tragedy and the resilience that followed. Each year, small groups gather for memorial walks, carrying lanterns through the streets that once flickered with gaslight. The case remains open in spirit, a reminder of how even the smallest town can harbor the darkest mystery. And though the killer's name was never known, the story continues to echo across time, an enduring testament to loss, to unanswered questions, and to the fragile boundary between safety and the unknown.